my students. Welcome to the physics lesson for Form 1 students. I'm a physics teacher. My name is Abdul Sudi Muhammad. So today's lesson, we are starting with the measurement is our topic. Then our subtopic is called as volume of irregular objects. So before starting, we have to know our today's specific objective. So I believe that at the end of today's lesson, we will define the term volume and its as a unit. And secondly, we have to measure and calculate the volume of the regular object. So welcome. By starting here in front of you, we have different objectives. We have different objects. So here we can see a bottle of perfume. Then we have a glass. After that, what is this? Okay, this is a ball. Okay, then what is this? Can you see it? This is a globe that will show different maps. What about this? This is a box for the toothpaste. So we have different objectives. From those objectives, what is our aim? It's just the volume of the regular object. So these objects are regular objects. So we have three different things. The first one, we have the rectangular object, which is a box. The second one, we have cylindrical. We have cylindrical object. Then, number 3, we have sphere. So those are the 3 important regular objects that we are going to find, to measure, and record its volume. So, by starting, first of all, we have to know the amount of the space that object occupies. So if this is the glass, so we have the amount of the space that is occupied. Also, for the case of the ball or globe like this one, this is the sphere. So we have the amount of the space occupied by this sphere. Also, we have a box. This is the rectangular. This is the rectangular object. We have the amount of the space that occupied by the box. Also, we have another special feature for the rectangular object. This is a cube. So the cube, we have the space that is occupied by the cube. So we can say that the space occupied by the object is called as a volume. We know that the volume is the derived physical quantity. So it can be measured and expressed in terms of meter cube. So first of all, the volume is the space occupied by an object. Okay, so that is a simple definition of the term volume. If that is the case, then what about the SI unit of volume? Of course, as we have said earlier, that volume is the derived physical quantity. So it just comes from the multiplication of more than one fundamental physical quantity. So the SI unit of volume is called as meter cube. It is symbolized by small m cube. Even though there are other units of volume that are normally used, we have centimeter cube, we have millimeter cube, and so on. So we can measure the volume by the use of meter cube or centimeter cube or millimeter cube. Now it is a time to start one by one to cross-check for that. So we have to know the dimension. We have to know the dimensions for those three objects. So let us start with a rectangular object. This is the rectangular object. So we are going to use the meter rule. This is the half meter rule that is used to measure we have the length, we have the breadth, we have the height. So we can see like this. So that is the rectangular object. We have distance from this point to this point. This is called as length, denoted by small l. This is the length. Then from this point to this point, this is called as breadth, which is denoted by b. And the last dimension, we have this one, which is called as a height, denoted by small h. Therefore, the dimension for the rectangular object, of course, we can recall. Can you recall the dimension for the rectangular object? Okay, thank you. So here we have length. As we have said, is symbolized by small l. Then we have breadth, b. And lastly, we have the height, h. So this is the dimension for the rectangular object. After that, now, let us see the second object. But before the second object, we have the cube. The cube is in the form of the rectangular object, but it has a special feature for that. So for this case, we have length, this one. Then we have the breadth. The breadth is just the same like the length, so we can write L. After that, we have the height. The height just the distance from here to here. This is the same like the length, like the breadth. So we can say this is the length. So length times length is equal to what? Length times length is equal to what? Okay, thank you. This is equal to L cube. So that is a special features for the cube, for the case of the rectangle. Now, let us move to the second object. Number 2 is the cylindrical. Is the cylindrical object. My dear student, now if this is the cylindrical object, or this is a cylindrical object also, and here we have cylindrical object. So the dimension for the cylindrical object, first of all, we can see the diagram for the cylindrical object. We have the height. This is the height represented by h. Another dimension that we're going to use is the radius, which is denoted by small r. So here r is the radius. For that case, in terms of height, we have to use the half meter rule to measure the height of the cylinder. Then, for the case of the radius, we have to use the vernier caliper, this one. So we have to measure the diameter. We have to measure the diameter of the glass, which is a cylindrical object like this. So in this way, what we have, is this the radius? No? Okay, what is this? Thank you, this is the diameter. So distance from here up to here, this is the diameter. This is the diameter. We are going to use small d as a diameter. But there are some relation between diameter and the radius. Who is ready to tell us? Okay? Thank you. So diameter d, this is equal to 2 times the radius. Diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. So this is the dimension for the cylindrical object. Now, let us come to the third object. This is the spherical object. As we have said, this is a ball. It is the shape of the sphere. So this is the spherical object. For the case of the spherical object, the dimension we have to use, what is this? Okay, it is a vernier caliper. So we are going to use to measure the diameter of the spherical object. So in this way, you can note down the value of the diameter from the vernier caliper, okay? So this can be seen like this. We have the center of the sphere, which is O. Then from here to here, with a certain dimension, but according to our measurement, we took this dimension we called as diameter, which is denoted by small d. So that is diameter. Of course, from number 2, we have seen that there are some relation between diameter and radius. So we have the distance from the center to the circumference there. So that is called as, okay, this distance is called by r. Let us write r, which represent the radius of the spherical object. Now, it is a time to remember the volume of those regular objects. Okay, are you ready? Thank you. Who will start? What is the volume for the rectangular object? What is the volume for the rectangular object? Okay. Yes, thank you. The volume of the rectangular object is given by volume. This is equal to length times breadth times height. So if we know the length of the rectangular object, then measure the breadth, then the height. Lastly, we can find out the volume of the rectangular object. Now, for special case of the cube, like this one, as we have seen, we have to use length times length times length, which is equal to length cube. So this is also the volume of a cube. This is the volume of a cube, which is a special feature for the rectangular object. Now let us come to number 2, cylindrical object. For the cylindrical object, we have the amount of the space occupied by that cylindrical object. Who can remember and tell us what is the volume of the cylindrical object? Okay, so the volume of the cylindrical object V, this is equal to, okay, pi, then r squared, then times the height h. Of course, initially, we have seen how can we find the radius of the cylindrical object and the height by the use of our appropriate instrument, half meter rule, as well as a vernier caliper. Then, after that, we have spherical object. So what is the volume of the spherical object? Are you ready for that? Okay, thank you. So the volume for the spherical object, we can say the sphere, this is equal to 4/3 pi r cube. What is r? R is the radius, which is half the diameter of the sphere. So that is the radius. So from those three rectangular objects, the volume for the cylindrical object, now for the spherical object, we have to move to see certain example on how can we use one among of the three formulas. Okay, let us see example number 1. Calculate the volume of a rectangular object with dimension of side, take 10 centimeter times 5 centimeter times 2 centimeter. Okay, so first of all, we have to write our value, given value. So this is the given. What we have from there As we have seen here, the dimension for the rectangular object, we have length times breadth times height. It means that the first one should be length, the second one is breadth, and thirdly, we have height. So we have length. This is L, which equal to 10 centimeter. After that, we have the breadth. This is B, which is equal to 5 centimeter. And then we have height. Height H is equal to 2 centimeter. What are we required to find? We have to required to calculate the volume. We have to calculate the volume, which is given by capital V. Through that, we have to remember that the formula for the volume of the rectangular object is given by length times breadth times height. So from the formula, V is equal to length times breadth times height. What is length? From our giving, the length is equal to 10 centimeter times, then the breadth is equal to 5 centimeter, then the height is 2 centimeter. Then centimeter times centimeter times centimeter is centimeter cube. After that, we can say that 5 times 2. 5 times 2 is equal to what? 5 times 2 is equal to 10. So we have 10 times 5 times 2 is 10. This is centimeter cube. 10 times 10 is equal to 10 times 10 is equal to, who is ready? Okay, thank you. 10 times 10 is equal to 100 centimeter cube. So at the end, you have to conclude that the volume of a rectangular object is 100 centimeter cube. You have to underline your answer. So that is the volume of the rectangular object. Now let us see the last example for today. Volume of a spherical ball of radius 3 centimeter. As usually, we have to write the given according to our statement. Find the volume of a spherical ball. This is the spherical ball. The diameter is about, it is 6 centimeter. So if the diameter is equal to 6 centimeter, then the radius is equal to 3 centimeter. So how can we calculate the volume of this spherical ball. So given we have the radius, this is r, which is equal to 3 centimeter, then required to find the volume. Required to find the volume V. From the dimension, we have the radius, but the volume of the sphere, we are coming to the solution. So what we know from the formula, V, the type of the object that we have is the spherical object. This is the spherical object, so the formula used is 4/3 pi r cube. Therefore, upon substitution of the given value, 4/3 times pi, what is the value of pi? The value of pi is 22/7, which is constant, times the radius. What is the radius? The radius is 3. But don't forget, this is the 3 cube. After that, upon simplification, we have 4/3 times 22/7 times 3 cube is equal to 3 times 3 times 3. Then these 3 and these 3 cancelled out. Remaining 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 2 also is 8. Then times 3 times 3 is 9/7. This is centimeter cube. After that, let us multiply together. Okay, 80 times 9 is equal to, who is ready? 80 times 9 is equal to 72. Write it 2 carries 7. Then 9 times 8 is 72, plus 7 is 79. Then over 7. This is the volume for the spherical ball. We have to conclude that, therefore, the volume of a spherical ball is 792/7 centimeter cube. Then we have to underline our conclusion. That is the volume for the spherical object. Now, my students, can you write down the formula for finding the volume of this object? If you know the radius, you know the height. Then also, can you explain briefly how the volume of the regular object can be found? Okay? Thank you for that. So before coming to the end of our today's lesson, we have some piece of work that we have to do at home. But don't forget to share with your fellow students as well as your teacher. So, okay, so that is the piece of work. We have 3 questions. We have to find the volume for the cylindrical tank. 2, we have to find the length for the given wooden block. And lastly, we have to calculate the volume of the cube for the given side. cube like this one. So here is the end of our today's lesson about the volume of the regular object. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.